What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Almighty Analysis. My name is Tragic Almighty. Today we're going to be reacting to a video from Michael McElvey. It's called You Will Never Look at College Football the Same. Live here in Eugene, Oregon. I've lived here since I was in 6th grade, and I'm 32 now, so Oregon Ducks football is very much in my blood. Had season tickets last year for the last Pac-12 season. If you watch college football, you know there's a different feeling about it. Just so much love. Everyone's got their own traditions and stuff and different stadiums, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Especially even when you see like we had all these different people coming in from East Coast schools like Ohio State, and this is their first time experiencing like what it's like to be at Autzen Stadium. I mean, they got 100,000 people in their stands. We have about a little under 60, I think, and you hear about how it's like the loudest venue and stuff here, and people with 100,000 fans are like, yeah, that's cute. But then they come here and they see that it's like this whole different environment. It's just a cool feeling. But college football has changed a lot, and with NIL deals, name, image, and likeness, these kids are getting paid now more than some professional athletes. I think there's college football players that are getting paid more than people in the WNBA have ever made, which is a crazy thought, but that's where the eyes are. And college football has always been important because you got to think this isn't just a one billionaire who owns a team and is trying to build his business up. This is groups of billionaires that are graduating from these schools and are like, that's their alma mater. That's something they while they were there, they were getting drunk with their friends in the stands, and they wanted to see their boys go out there and kill it. Now they can pay for that, and they can add to their school's legacy and be a part of that and feel like they had some part in it, if that makes any sense. The thing is, it's been going on forever. It's not something that is new. It's just been under the table because it was frowned upon, and people like Reggie Bush have lost their Heisman because of it. There's been people like Cam Newton who have been criticized for some of the stuff that he's done. I mean, Johnny Manziel has came out and said he was selling autographs and things like that, and which was illegal. But let's get into the video. If you want to hear the video without any of my commentary, I'm going to leave the original link down in the description. Let's get it started.
This is the sports universe. Within it exist numerous constellations, but perhaps the strangest, one that all sports have recently turned their gaze to, exists right here. This is the constellation of college football.
Man, Reggie Bush.
Like any realm, there were issues in this constellation, but it was a place that was treated differently, a natural preserve of sorts, a place that didn't operate with the same free market laws as other sports leagues. Society had kind of carved this corner of the galaxy off with the intent of preserving rather than developing. And for decades, humanity admired this constellation, a sacred destination with big and small worlds, each existing and evolving with their own unique communities over time.
The real traditions.
God, see, that is exactly what it is. It's all about the traditions, like everything from shout here in Oregon to the jump around in Wisconsin. You got Enter the Sandman in Virginia Tech. It's such a crazy sport, like things that you don't see in any other sport, and it's so beautiful.
You find that in the college game.
That is, until recently.
$1 billion media rights.
In the watershed moment of collegiate athletics and football. College football is completely different.
To understand this, we need to head to a small, little-known world.
Where you go? We don't like
As
that
running
place here in
east
Oregon.
In the great state of Washington, the green fades to brown, the gray to blue. And just as the colors change, so do the colleges. Coors versus wine and cheese, yachts versus RVs. Pullman, Washington is a tourist town, and that might surprise you. Nothing about it seems touristy. Surrounded by wheat fields, no resorts, beaches.
That's how it is. So like when you come to Eugene, it's very, they try to up it and like make it very much a tourist town. But then you go to Corvallis for an Oregon State Beavers game, and you get this kind of vibe that's going on here in Pullman, like, which is crazy because I've never been to a Washington State game there. Obviously, I've seen them play here at Autzen, but I've been to Husky Stadium, and like, it's crazy to see the difference. It's very much Washington and Oregon are like the big brothers, and then you got like the small town school, Oregon State and Washington State.
Mountains in sight.
Wow, that's
Makes
so
no
pretty.
sense that a town of 8,000 full-time residents will quadruple regularly in the fall. None of this makes sense. That is, of course, if you don't know much about college football.
Right? God, man, I have chills just listening to this. That's crazy.
For many, college football is more about the cathedrals. 8 of the 10 biggest stadiums in the world were built for this game. Of course, as WSU shows, not every team is like that.
College football is not immune from politics or financial motivation.
TV networks noticed. They thought these big boys should play each other more often. Lucrative.
And I think that has ruined college football. Oops. I don't think any of like people saying that the money has ruined college football. I don't think that. I think that it's added more parity in college football. Like, I think that there are teams now that probably geographically, like where they're at, should be better. Like, you see like SMU's having a great season this year. Partly is because they're in Dallas, Texas. Like, realistically, if not every kid in Texas who wants to play football is going to go to the University of Texas, they're not all going to go to Texas Tech and Texas Christian University, TCU, and stuff like that. They got, like, SMU was one of those schools that really got screwed back in the day for doing exactly what is normalized now. Like, they were one of, I think, the first college football team to get the death penalty, which meant they weren't even allowed to play football anymore. USC got something close to that for all of the Reggie Bush stuff. But yeah, that's hold on, let me adjust this mic. Sorry about that. That is something that has definitely been, I think, around for a while, but this is what I feel like has actually had an effect on college football. Here in Eugene, the reason I paid for those season tickets last year in the Pac-12, because it's like, you grew up building not necessarily even hate, but like, it's just friendly rivalries with these schools and their fan bases. Like, you meet some of them when they come down here and visit, and there's always that friendly jabber of like, yeah, like, we're gonna get you next year type stuff. And all of that is gone. Like, certain rivalries that you're never going to see again. Like, even the Oregon State thing, we didn't know if that was ever going to happen again, which is a big reason why so many people were fighting to get those tickets. But yeah, I don't think that the realignment, especially with the 12 team college football playoff, makes any sense. Like, how are you going to mess up the conferences to where now it's like you got some teams that have 3 losses, but there are people saying that they should still be in there because their conference was tougher. It should, just like with what the money's doing, be evened out. And I think that eventually they will get to the point where it does seem more even than how it's been in the past.
If offers were made, big teams ditched regionality for realignment and restructure. More games like Michigan versus UW. Two schools 2,000 miles apart. There's not really any tradition between UW and Michigan, but millions will watch. So it's a better product.
No, it's not.
Right?
No, and that's where people are wrong. And I think that is where it loses some of the heart that made what college football what it was. Is, yes, those are big games on paper, but nothing beats playing the people that you grew up with. And those are people that I may never go to Michigan for anything in my life. And so as a Duck fan, when we beat Michigan, it's like, there's no bragging to the guy that lives next to you who used to live in Washington or anything like that. The chances of someone from Michigan moving here, slim. So I don't know. It does. I don't personally believe that having these big matchups really matter, like especially with the 12-team college football playoff. Like those things would have happened anyways, and now you're just making money off of TV revenue because you need it probably after paying all these players.
This is where college football is really, really weird. And this weirdness supersedes all other sports weirdness. And my realization of this came the other day when an Australian friend asked me a very surface level question. Why do people care about college football? All the best players are just in the NFL.
No.
Such a simple question that forced me to pause. Wait, why do I care? And many fans will ask themselves this question when they get too caught up in watching a bunch of random dudes play some random game, screaming at the TV. Maybe we lose
That's
that
pathetic and sad.
relationship in the process. But there really is something really unique about college football in comparison to the other big sports. They aren't the best players. Those guys play on Sundays. It's understandable to want to spectate the best of the best. That's a product you can sell. It's been sold many times. That's rational. What's not rational is watching a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds for 4 hours through 30-degree weather. That's just weird. For perspective, try and think of one comparable. Try and think of one sport that averages audiences like this. For amateurs, the U20 World Cup, the other form of football, over 1 billion fans worldwide. The global sport, average audience was 13,000. There were 120 football programs last year that averaged more than that.
There's that place, boys.
Season. This suggests that
Autzen Stadium is literally just, man, you got to experience it. If you're here in Eugene, Oregon, you got to come to a Duck game. And even if it's, raining outside, it never rains in Autzen Stadium. If you know, you know.
That there is something unique with college football, at least up until this point. So if they don't have the best players, why is college football so popular? Maybe if we go to the brightest minds at these colleges, like academics and administrators, we can find some answers. Take Carol Folt, the USC president. She has a doctorate in ecology. She worked as a researcher in biological science.
She was just hired
Very
too,
smart
I think.
Individual. But do you see anything in her bio that shouts college football? Not even a ball. After hitting this dead end, I hit the streets. I asked fans, why do you care about college football?
Getting together with family and friends.
Coming back home.
Everybody around me, family, friends.
Family, friends, and Fireball!
It's a good community here. To have fun and be together.
Exactly.
Yep. We used to come to a lot of mom and dad.
The people that I sat next to last year, so like I bought 3 season tickets, me, my son, and then either I took my mom or I took her boyfriend, cause he's like a grandpa to my son, and so like I would take them to the games, and I would always be sat around the same people, having the same seat, obviously, and by the end of it, I became, I wouldn't like I would say almost friends with them, and like there was that family vibe of like I knew those people that they would offer when they left the game early or something, they would offer, hey, you want to move up to this seat, we're about to take off, or things like that, or does your son want a drink, we're about to go to the concession stands. Just really awesome vibes, and like people that they all care about the same thing. We all going there, even we're so different in so many ways, we got different things going on in our life, but on Saturday we're all focused on the same thing, and it's such a freaking pretty thing.
Out of pass, so it's like Dad said, it's the people. It always has been and always will be the people.
Football equals community, which equals
It's watching
feeling
your
good,
community
which
overcome and like
creates a
become the
feedback
best.
loop of sorts. In a world struggling with loneliness, sports like football remain as a catalyst for us to connect. A couple quick numbers from a book, Fans Have More Friends. The average non-fan has about 21 friends. The average dedicated sports fan, 35. They also have more social interactions, 454 versus 204. We're getting connection out of sports like football, and we crave that as humans.
Win or lose, Cougs booze.
With the advent of radio and television,
Cougs booze. That kid doesn't even look like he's old enough to booze.
Feedback loop was even more palpable.
That's hilarious.
It became a bigger product. Fans didn't have to go to the game to get together. They could watch at their friend's house or a bar or a restaurant. This is a very good product. And the thing is, even when teams lose, people still win. Okay, but we sports fans get this, so what's the problem? Well, who makes the decision? Ultimately, for big decisions like conference realignment, one person takes full responsibility, and that is the school president, who happens to be an academic.
All they see is more money for
the business because a lot of them come from the academic side. This comes directly from a former Fox Sports Network president who negotiated hundreds of these TV deals. To be fair, many of them will tell you they didn't realize how intertwined athletics would be. So why did USC leave, and who made this domino decision? I had a chance to speak with my favorite college
Damn, they're just gonna put it all on her.
Released an in-depth book about this. 11-time Emmy Award winner
Armin Katayan.
According to our reporting, Carol Folt, the president, really navigates the move to the Big Ten.
USC decided to leave and kind of blow up in the process a conference it had been in for about a century.
That, and it's just like such a, for West Coast football, I think it really hurts. Like they're broken up. You got Stanford and Cal in the ACC. You have Oregon State and Washington State without a conference, and those teams deserve to be in a conference. Washington and Oregon and UCLA and USC playing against a bunch of East Coast teams. Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado moving to the Big 12. I actually like Colorado being in the Big 12, but Arizona, like Colorado and Utah being in the Big 12 makes more sense to me. Because like originally we were like the Pac-10 conference. And so I think adding teams more like Boise State and like a Fresno State or something like that would make more sense to the Pac-12. But man, it's really rough. Like it hurt. like that last season, seeing all the mascots grouped together and stuff, like as much as we've all hated each other over the years, like in that friendly football way, it was like seeing them all together was like tugged on everybody's heartstrings. Like there's a lot of tears in the freaking, and they did like even like a drone show showing all of the mascots in the sky and stuff. That it's something that hopefully we can get back to someday, but it's not likely with how money hungry people are.
Why did they do this?
When they say it's not about the money, it's about the money.
A school with a $7.6 billion endowment that charges $340,000 for a four-year degree decided to turn its athletes into a traveling road show for more money. And more schools followed. This seems like a problem, but there are attempts and decisions being made like this in many different arenas, like the Super League in Europe. Maybe you view the USC's, Texas, the Oklahomas of the world as just making a business decision. It sucks, but it happens.
And like Texas and Oklahoma were the Big 12. Like every year, one of those schools was the favorite to win the Big 12, and to see them in the SEC, like, yeah, as nice as it is to watch good football games all the time, it's just not the same.
Happens all the time in countless domains, and the world keeps spinning.
A major shift.
Well, short-term profit strategies aren't always long-term profit strategies, and for that, we need to go to the most valuable constellation in our sports universe, a paradoxical phenomenon.
Bringing you tonight the most spectacular showcase the league has to offer. He's hit. Oh, he is nailed.
They don't even like highlight big hits anymore. Every time there's a big hit, someone's
The
like, "Oh,
NFL
did he hit him in the
is
head?"
only program that feels like it owns 1/7 of our week, but this is a puzzling TV program because although it's run by hardcore capitalists, it is a socialist utopia. There is a salary cap, a salary minimum, a redistribution of wealth through the draft. None of that sounds capitalistic. Comparing it to the MLB or Champions League is laughable. The NFL is built on parity and fairness. All TV revenue distributed equally to all 32 teams, regardless of how big your fan base is, regardless of how good you do. The Cowboys and Panthers, they get the same cut. So how did it get this way?
The NFL
That's
was
crazy.
born out of industrial towns.
I didn't even know
Most
that.
Americans saw football as a spirited amateur endeavor. Purists believed that paying players violated football's essence. The league struggled. Teams folded left and right for 20 to 30 years.
This led to inequality, a lack of parity. There were 4 powerhouse teams: the Giants, Bears, Packers, and Redskins. This led to a seminal moment. Burt Bell, who was the owner of the Eagles, he couldn't get any of the good college players. They just go play for these good teams. So he went to the other owners with a proposal, a draft.
George Halas and Tim Marr looked at the plan, a plan they knew would undeniably hurt their teams, and thought, he's right. If we can't have a level playing field in people beating us, this is not going to be interesting. Mara and Halas signed on knowing it would hurt their team but improve the product of professional football.
Countless key moments like this. Like
How
Halas
selfless
helping
of
out his
them.
bitter rival, the Green Bay Packers, a small market team who was at risk financially. They were like a successful Silicon Valley startup. They kept putting the interests of the collective ahead of their own individual interests. Wildly competitive on Sunday, collaborative and innovative Monday through Friday. And eventually, this would lead to the most valuable league in all of sports. Obviously today, the NFL isn't some non-profit enterprise. They seem to really have 2 relationships: a socialist relationship amongst the owners and a capitalist relationship with the fans. NFL Sunday Ticket, ticket prices in general, commercials, they're very much in the business of making money, and that's okay. But this unparalleled rise started with this forward-looking product-first vision. And if the early NFL was like Apple, college football is starting to feel a whole lot more like IBM.
Is Carol Folt or other university presidents thinking about the product of college football, or the university first?
I mean, it's their job to think
So,
of the university
what exactly
first, so
is the product of college football? I mean, who are we to judge if this is a bad decision? It's not like they're getting rid of college football. They're just paying the big boys to play each other more often. What's wrong with that? There's never been parity, and as fans, we're just going to get better matchups now. I'll be right down.
A year ago,
I'll be right down.
I had a moment in the bathroom. More of a existential crisis. Oregon was playing the Washington Huskies just down the street. Many of my friends were Ducks, and everyone was gearing up for the walk over to the game. A buddy of mine asked if I wanted to wear a jersey. I said no. They said, come on, man. You grew up in Oregon, and it's the Huskies. I said, okay.
You don't do it, man. That's okay. That anyone who is from Eugene or Washington, as much as like Washington doesn't like Washington State and Oregon doesn't like Oregon State, to us, those are like our little brothers. If they do beat us, it's almost like, you got that lucky punch. Good job. We'll see you next year. As a Duck fan, the one thing that we do not like is the color purple. We do not like Husky fans, and Husky fans do not like us. And it's probably because we're both arrogant as hell. We both think that we're freaking better than we are most of the years. And yeah, this is I can already tell you how this is going to go. He is going to get a lot of boos.
I took the jersey to the bathroom, put it on.
Put that Michael James jersey on.
To the commercial world, my fandom was in free agency. My dad went to WSU. His dad went to WSU. So I grew up rooting for the Cougs, especially against the Huskies. The Cougs who were left behind in realignment. It was time to move on, and Oregon was a logical regional fit. No one would have questioned me. I could have just said I was from Oregon. They make pretty nice jerseys, too. But I
the best.
Couldn't. Even if I wanted to. I didn't grow up a Duck fan. So I took the jersey off.
Neutral guy.
Lame.
This is the beauty and product of college football. Distant, dim stars that collectively burn bright.
I think you made the right decision going to a Husky game, but at the same time, I'm disappointed in you, Matt.
Every sport
disappointed
has its
in you.
dynasties, and those dynasties will naturally attract
Gotta
a
represent.
larger following. But what makes this sport special happens deep beneath the surface of the national title race, where fandom can't be bought.
If the NFL is 32 franchises desperate for the Lombardi, college football is over 100 fan bases desperate for thousands of unique made-up trophies, like just getting a win, taking down an SEC school, or beating the alma mater of their buddy down the street who just went there for graduate school. Come on, man.
The Duck friends that I have, they don't reminisce about the Pac-12 titles that they've earned. Instead, the most cited line is the 12 straight victories over UW.
If the NFL season is a linear march toward the Super Bowl, the college football season is a staggering, sporadic lurch through a minefield of petty feuds, unpredictability, and tradition. A progressive Duck fan base with a Disney character ripping a Harley? A more conservative Corvallis a few dozen miles away, where they dress as literal duck hunters, shotgunning beer in camo overalls, pumping the stadium with chainsaws.
And I will say, Oregon State is one of those stadiums. I went to Oregon State USC to watch Caleb Williams when he was there. Holy crap, dude. That was my first time ever being at Reser Stadium, and even though half of the stadium was under renovation, so there was like a whole side that wasn't even packed, it sounded just as loud as any stadium I've been in, and the fans were so awesome. Like, the Oregon State fans, like, there's probably the most welcoming fans. They might rib you every now and then and be like, oh, your team sucks, but it's so playful, and it's like, even after like their team loses, they're like, oh, good game. Even though you didn't play, they're just like, it's such an awesome environment.
Noises on third down, that's how they get down. As Jordan Kahn from The Ringer wrote, the sport is a window into hundreds of corners of the country most of us would never get to see, each with their own delightful absurdities. How do you think College Game Day became so popular?
Boise, Idaho. Home to a fairy tale about college football.
Would such a show make you smile if they were in Dallas for the 97th time talking about how big Jerry's World was?
I have chills right now watching all these traditions, and I think that's really what's special about college football. West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
Fortunately, that is where it's headed. Game day is going to Eugene tomorrow to cover the Ducks for the 12th time in about 20 years. They cover 2 more schools 2,000 miles apart because, well, money. I'm sure it'll be an exciting matchup, and maybe I'm just wearing rose-colored glasses. I'm becoming who my father was, who his father was, a romantic of the past, except this is not a complaint. This is a horrific product decision, one that all major sports will be paying attention to. Recently, there was a Super League that was proposed, cutting the FBS level basically from 133 to 70 teams. That wasn't enough, apparently. Greg Sankey, who's the commissioner of the SEC, already came out and said, yeah, that's not happening, which means it's probably not happening. Instead, what's more likely is a further consolidation into roughly 25 to 30 teams in a more national football league.
No.
Does that sound familiar?
No, man, you can't do that.
3 years, 5 years down the line, will you see a super conference? I think more likely than not.
There is very little chance that we're headed any direction other
all
than
the good feelings out the window.
Major conferences breaking away and doing their own thing.
These Super League teams will stand to gain a whole lot more media money because it would mean more media money and less teams to pay out. The big networks want this because it's bigger matchups filling precious real estate. Every decision up until this point, it's indicated that these top programs will just continue to chase more money, even if it means cutting out others. But here's why I think that is going to lead to maybe a short-term bump in profit, but a long-term decrease in profit.
Yeah.
Disenfranchising some football teams, their fan bases might just naturally lose interest. If Boise State is in a completely different football world than UW, their fans just might not care to watch as much. Not all college football fans are fans of the NFL, and some of these college football teams are becoming a whole
And I can honestly say, even though I'm an Eagles fan, the only time that I really watch the NFL is if it's just like on TV and I have nothing else to watch and I'm not really paying attention too much, or the playoffs. Because everything else just doesn't seem... You got 16 games, 17 games now, to where these guys are mailing it in sometimes. Like, you watch, oh, they're hyping up this matchup, and then one team decides to not show up, and you're like, wow, you get paid millions of dollars. Why would you show up? Like, he doesn't really have to do that. He's already a big name. He's an Odell Beckham Jr. He doesn't have to catch the ball. He gets other opportunities like modeling and other things out of football to where it's just a goofy thing, man. Like, I love college football for the fact that these kids are there to play football, and a lot of them to get to that next level where it is about the money.
More like the NFL without the key piece. They don't have the best players. Those guys are in the NFL. They're creating friction to the fan experience by stripping a significant portion of regionality away from the game. Last year I had 3 separate friend groups coming to town for UW games. I am not a UW fan, but because I grew up on the West Coast, a lot of my friends went to West Coast schools, and this was an excuse for us to get together. There is not a single game like that for UW this year because they don't really play as many teams around them anymore. What's a big game now? You won't really have as many 8-0s versus 8-0s if they go to a 30-team super conference because, well, there's so much parity, you'll probably have a lot more 5-3s versus 4-4s. That doesn't really feel as much like a big game, at least in the college sense. Fans of teams that are just...
And I think that is a great point that he brings up, because as much as I have somewhat liked the parity this year, you see teams like Indiana and like, I'm trying to think of someone off the top of my head, teams like Memphis and schools that even Boise State, like Boise State's always been somewhat successful, but the chances that they get into a playoff, they can actually compete for a national title this year. But that has more to do with the playoff. And really, they didn't need to strip all of the conferences and everything down in order to do that, because what's more interesting, having that 9-3 team that you don't even know if they really should have been in the playoff, as opposed to this other team that didn't play as tough of a schedule but has a better record? Like, or these two teams kind of mopped up their conference, like a Texas and Oklahoma when they were in Big 12. Oregon and Washington in the Pac-12 and things like that. And then all of those teams that are like undefeated, you got like undefeated teams or one-loss teams all going at it, into where it's like, okay, now it's getting real. To me, that sounds more exciting. To me, that's like, okay, prove that you can beat the teams around you, and then at the end of the year, there's no question about who should be in the college football playoffs, because those teams it'll work itself out. You'll know who the best team is. There's so much parity now to where there's teams that have 3 losses on their record, and I genuinely think they should be in the playoffs. There's teams with 4 losses even that I feel like would have been in the playoffs, and they're good enough teams. They just played a dreadful schedule where they had to play great team after great team, and there was no way that they were going to go undefeated.
Left out, they might tune out because of just spite. People's beliefs run deep. The cutting of funding for FCS schools. Media companies aren't going to want anything to do with Portland State versus UW, but these FCS schools with these pay-for-play games make a third to half of their budget off of these games. Invariably, if you remove them, that means some of these FCS schools will have to fold their program, which means less people playing football, less people probably watching football.
Two things can be true at the same time. National primetime ratings can increase, and overall college football viewership can decrease. One of the touted points this year is the increase in national ratings, but are we truly surprised that Texas versus Alabama at 7 Eastern has huge numbers? The real comparison should be the totality of college football viewership. How many mid-market audiences, like Texas Tech and WSU's fan base, did these big teams lift up by playing them?
Here they come.
Viewership was just more spread out. Lastly, we need to tread carefully with ratings. If your only metric for product quality is TV ratings, how did you feel about Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson?
I would never watch something like that or anything with Jake Paul. I'm a big WWE fan, as I've said in other videos, so watching Logan Paul in WWE, I've been pleasantly surprised. I think that he fits very good with what a heel does in WWE, and like, he's easy to hate, which is everything wrestling looks for. Like, there's got to be a bad guy in order for you to be cheering for the good guy. If you have good guy versus good guy, it splits the audience, and WWE doesn't like that.
I'm not saying this will kill college football, but rather we could.
But everyone knew Jake Paul and that Tyson fight. Like, those are all rigged to get money.
Product and profit, and right now, the powers at play within the college football community are dropping an Acme anvil on the product. Baseball tried this inadvertently. For years, America's pastime refused to adapt. Now, facing an age cliff of older fans, they are leaning more into the product by shortening the game. Why didn't baseball adapt sooner?
Oh, he's milking every step of it, isn't he?
Well, longer games meant more commercials.
Jimmy, pace of play.
Sometimes you have to leave a little on the table to improve or preserve the product. Baseball games had increased in length substantially over time, allowing for more ads, allowing for more money, but worsening the product. They changed this, and although some players and traditionalists might not like it, it appears to be working. It appears to be a better product. Because the top sports leagues are inherently monopolistic.
Oh, wow. Do they not let them round the bases anymore when they hit home runs? That is a little goofy. I don't like that. Like, what time does that really take out of the game? Like, that's stupid. Like, if the ball didn't go over the fence, if I'm someone hitting a home run, and even if I know it's going to be, I'm running anyway. I'll be like, I didn't know it was going to go out of the, like, that's crazy.
Freedom to hurt the product without seeing the short-term ramifications.
I don't watch baseball enough. Let me know in the comments if that's something they did, because that's stupid.
Cereal. Instead, slowly over years, the casuals might find it less interesting than the alternatives. It's a slow poison.
Now, I don't want to just fixate on what's wrong with all this. What can be done? Well, let's start by acknowledging the elephant in the room. The Big Ten and the SEC, they control the destiny not just for football, but in a lot of ways for all of sports. So what should the Big Ten and SEC do? Look to the stars. Your product is the constellation. The Big Dipper stands out through its group, not through its brightest star.
For this, I present a working theory, one that restores the constellation through regional rivalry.
Oh my God. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this right here, because I was just about to say there are teams like Notre Dame who have been in an independent conference, and it's bullshit because literally they don't, like, they're in Big Ten country. They should have been one of the only teams and first teams to go into the Big Ten, and I actually really love this. I haven't seen a Big East in a long time, so you got Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Tennessee, all in the SEC. I feel, I don't know, there's some teams missing out of there that I feel like probably could be swapped. Big Ten, Illinois, Indiana, Notre Dame, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Northwestern. That makes sense. A lot of those schools. I would say that not having Penn State in there, though, is a little meh, because it's like Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, because Penn State has had a hard time overcoming them, has been, I don't know, that's something that I don't think that people should take away. But let's kind of look at this. What is like Big East? Has Notre Dame in both? Like Big East can't be in. They can't be in both. They should definitely just be in the Big Ten. Let's see. Southwest Conference: Arkansas, Baylor, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. So like the Texas schools, I think SMU should be in there. Colorado, Iowa State, Missouri, Nebraska, Utah, BYU. Yeah, no, that could work. And then Arizona, I do like the Pac-10. It's classic. The ACC. So the one thing that I would change about the ACC and the SEC, I would swap South Carolina with Miami. And I know Miami's been in the ACC for like however long time, or even like a Florida State. The Florida State makes more sense to me. Like a Florida State being in the same that conference as Florida, and like that makes more sense. And just because it's like there's so many teams that South Carolina and Clemson is the biggest rivalry. South Carolina's biggest rival is not in the SEC. Florida and Florida State, those two they don't like each other, and I think Miami might be up there, but Florida and Florida State don't like each other, and they should be in the same conference. It's like your biggest rival should be in the conference with you, I think.
With player and fan enjoyment in mind. For the FBS, 7 conferences of 10 teams. Everybody plays each other in their conference. 3 non-conference games.
But you can't have Notre Dame in 2 conferences.
Into a group of 4. And this group of 4 will have a 4-team playoff featuring the winner of each group of 4 conference. The winner of this group of 4 is a champion, and they will be given a bid to the CFP. Conferences will have their own media deals, and this will largely be distributed equally. To get the big boys on board, there will be bonuses each year to the top performing schools. For example, the schools that win their conference. This is subject to each individual conference's media negotiations. 60% of college football's playoff money is distributed to the Power 7. 15% to the group of 4. Remaining 25% goes to the teams and players that participated through a revenue share. Unfortunately, none of this is really possible without the SEC or Big Ten agreeing to do something they've been unwilling to. Take a smaller piece of the pie. Put the goal of the collective ahead of your own individual best interests, ahead of the media money grab.
The fans would love it.
If they don't, if they continue to squeeze as much commercialized juice as they can out of this product that is college football, they might be faced with the same problem that the NBA has been facing. It's not that basketball is a bad product. A few months ago, I made a video detailing why the upcoming Olympics would be the greatest basketball event of all time. That prediction largely came true. The final averaged 19.5 million viewers. For perspective, the NBA Finals in prime time averaged about half of that. The rules allowed for more defense, there were fewer games, there were fewer commercials, single elimination format, and importantly, players were playing for pride. You could just see it.
That's it. Because, it's really hard to watch the NBA now. As a Celtics fan, even though we won a championship, I didn't even feel excited or anything. I was more of just well, that's cool. We have a stacked team that's, better than everybody else. There's guys that don't play sometimes because they just don't feel like it. It's just, I don't know. It's a lot. Imagine saving up all your money to take your kid to go see LeBron James play, and he decides, but we're playing the Trailblazers, so I'm gonna take the night off and just take a nap. That's crazy work, man.
On their faces, it was like they were kids again. It was so refreshing.
Yeah, it is awesome to see.
It's actually more of a risk for an American to play in the Olympics, as their paycheck for a whole 2 months is less than what a lot of these guys make in a game in the NBA. In a way, they kind of just rolled the ball out there and played 40 minutes of basketball for their country, a stripped-down product that was just a better product. The NBA is certainly aware of this challenge. It's a complex issue, but it serves
I don't
as an
understand the
example
in-season
that if power
tournament.
brokers
It's really
continue
goofy.
to slap fans with wads of $100 bills. Briefcases of $100 bills.
Ouch.
Interest will eventually decline.
Pro wrestling learned that lesson. NASCAR learned that lesson. I'd love for college football not to learn. We cannot just piss on these people forever and tell them it's raining. We can get away with it for a little while because they're not going anywhere. We can't do it.
And as a pro wrestling fan, God, that is so true. Triple H has brought so much better storytelling. Everything means more. It's not this goofy thing. And it's weird because Triple H and Stephanie being a part of that authority storyline that kind of was almost draining the life out of us WWE fans. We see now that it was just they're just doing what they were told, because when Triple H has been in charge, it's been NXT always was like that, because that was his baby, and NXT was always like that. And everyone was like, man, why can't WWE be more like NXT? And now it is. Now it's there's pure cinema in a lot of these storylines that they have, whether it be Roman and CM Punk sitting at the table talking to each other, that scene of Cody and Roman in the stadium, and he's you're in my way type stuff. It's beautiful. That's this type of stuff that as fans, everybody knows wrestling is scripted, and so it's like watching an action movie. It's how can I make this wrestling match mean just as much as what they're doing in the ring? Just the story of it is just as much. And I think that that's true. It's I hope that college football doesn't go through that phase, because I love college football. It's one of the things that every year I'm looking forward to college football. Just as much as anything else in my life. College football is one of those things where it doesn't matter if as a Duck fan or I'm a Duck, as a Duck fan, I will watch teams play just because I'm oh wow, that's an interesting matchup, or they got a player that I like watching, or they're I'm a big coach guy, so a lot of the teams that I like watching, it's because I enjoy their coach's philosophy and his scheme and stuff like that. So for me, I really pray that that doesn't happen. I hope that nothing goes into that, especially using the downfall of WWE as a comparison. That is something that, oh my gosh, it's the reason wrestling feels so fresh and now is because we were just so stagnant for so long doing the same things over and over again.
Forever.
For a few minutes, think of this funny-shaped ball as a needle, helping weave a piece of fabric, a large piece of fabric in sporting Americana. Add this funny-looking ball to this industry, and what do you have? You have a socio-economic phenomenon called football.
Some people think that college football is immortal, and in a way it's impressive how successful it's been despite a lack of leadership, a clear monopoly that violated the rights of young men for decades. But just because capitalism is involved now doesn't mean that people can't make bad decisions. We cannot forget about the Pullmans. This is more than just another sad story about another small town. The majority of college football fans are not at top 25 programs. That should tell you a lot. Such places are vital threads in America's fabric and in the sport. Hope you enjoyed this video.
Wow. That was an amazing video. Super really amazing video. Well put together. I love the graphs and everything. Awesome. If you I'm gonna definitely subscribe. If you enjoyed this, make sure you guys go give him a like and subscribe, because Michael McElvey, I'll leave the description down in the I'll leave the link down in the description, dumbass. And God, that was something that I'm gonna be thinking about for a while, actually. I do think that the parody has been nice, but what he says is something that I think all of us fear. But I also think that this has been going on in college football for a long time. Like, the Pac-10 was once the Pac-8, and like all of these other things. Like, we've always grown and adapted. So let's just hope that this is enough and that they don't do anything to cause any more divide. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below what your opinion is on all of this. If you're a college football fan, let me know what your favorite football team is. And yeah, peace.